Your throat is burning. Your fever is climbing. You reach for the medicine cabinet without thinking. A bottle of pills, one moment, and the pain starts to fade. But here is the question that changes everything. What if there was nothing to reach for? What if the only thing between you and death was a plant you had never heard of? And what if I told you that the person who first figured that out did it 50,000 years ago? In this video, you are going to discover that medicine is not something humans invented. It is something we inherited. We inherited it from our ancestors who had nothing but desperation and the natural world. You will see how they did it. You will meet the Neanderthals who were using antibiotics. You will follow the Iceman on his personal medical journey. And you will learn the secret that ancient shamans have known for thousands of years. The power to heal was always right in front of us. So let us go back. Back to where it all began. Imagine a world where a broken bone was a death sentence. Not eventually, immediately. Infection would kill you in days. A fever with no name and no cure. A parasite eating you from the inside out while you watch yourself fade. Your family could do nothing but watch. That was the reality for most of human history. A survival pressure so intense that it forced our ancestors to become scientists without knowing it. They had to test plants. They had to try things. They had to find solutions or die. And what they found, we are still using today. Some of them we did not even realize we were using. Until now. 50,000 years ago. El Sidron Cave in Spain. A Neanderthal opens their mouth for what will be the last time. Nobody knows this. But that moment, that single set of teeth, will become evidence of something revolutionary. In 2012, scientists decided to examine the buildup on their teeth. Dental calculus, plaque that hardened over time. They analyzed it like an ancient pharmacy receipt. And here is what they found. Yarrow, a bitter, anti-inflammatory plant that nobody would eat unless they knew exactly why. Chamomile, a plant used to soothe inflammation and fight infection. These were not food. They tasted terrible. But this Neanderthal chose to eat them anyway. Then the discovery gets stranger. Genetic analysis showed these Neanderthals had the TAS2R38 gene, the bitter taste receptor. They did not just eat bitter plants by accident. They could taste them. They knew. And they ate them anyway because they understood at some level that sickness required sacrifice. But there is one more thing in those teeth. One Neanderthal, the one with a dental abscess, a serious infection, had poplar trapped in the calculus. Poplar is a natural source of salicylic acid. That is the active ingredient in aspirin. Our aspirin, the drug we invented in 1897, this Neanderthal used it 50,000 years before the lab. And then there is the mold. The same Neanderthal with the abscess also had Penicillium mold in their teeth. Penicillium, the mold that Alexander Fleming would accidentally discover in 1928, the substance that would win him a Nobel Prize. The antibiotic that would save millions of lives. This Neanderthal was using it 50,000 years before Fleming was even born. Here is where it gets strange. All this time, we have been taught that Neanderthals were brutish. But plants were just the beginning. What they did next required something far more terrifying. Something that would require not just knowledge, but precision, courage, and a willingness to crack open the human skull. Fast forward to 3,300 BCE, the Alps. A man dies in the ice and stays dead, completely frozen for 5,000 years. When they find him, his body is pristine. His clothes are preserved, his weapons are there, and his medicine kit. His name is the Iceman. And he was sick. His bones show arthritis. His arteries show calcification. He had Lyme disease, probably from a tick. And his intestines were infested with whipworm, a parasitic nematode that would have caused serious bleeding and pain. He was, in every sense, a walking list of reasons to die. But the Iceman did not just suffer. He treated himself. In his kit was birch polypore fungus, 2 pieces strung together on a leather cord like a primitive first aid kit. Birch polypore is an antibiotic. It is anti-parasitic. It is exactly what you would carry if you had the specific infection the Iceman had. And we know he used it because traces of it are in his stomach. There is more. He also had bracken fern, another anthelmintic, another anti-worm remedy. He was not carrying random plants. He was carrying a targeted pharmacy for his specific illness. He was a man trying to keep himself alive. And he knew how. Here is something even stranger. The Iceman had 61 tattoos, but these were not for show. They were located directly over his arthritic joints, in patterns that align with traditional acupuncture meridians. Pain relief through precision placement. This suggests that Copper Age societies had developed forms of medicine so sophisticated that they rival some of our modern techniques. But the real revolution came when humans figured out how to write it down. Around 2400 BCE in Nippur, Sumeria, someone carved a medical prescription into a clay tablet. 15 recipes, willow bark, fig, salt, mixed with beer. No mention of gods. Pure pharmacy. And every single one of those plants worked. Then came the Egyptians. Around 1550 BCE, they compiled the Ebers Papyrus. 842 prescriptions. For tumors, for heart disease, for parasites, for depression, for dementia. They did not just observe that something worked, they wrote it down. They experimented. They codified it. They passed it on. That act, writing down medical knowledge, changed everything. And then there is this. In Borneo, archaeologists found a skeleton, 31,000 years old. And that skeleton is missing its entire lower left leg. But the bone is not jagged, it is healed. Whoever performed the amputation knew exactly what they were doing. The child, because this was a child, survived for years after the surgery, lived, walked, probably with support, and was cared for by their community. This reframes everything. 8,000 years ago. Ukraine, a person lies on the ground. Another person takes a stone tool and begins drilling into their skull. No anesthesia, no antibiotics, just intention and skill. This procedure is called trepanation, and thousands of people survived it. In late Iron Age Switzerland, the survival rate was 78%. In ancient Peru, it reached 91%. Think about that. These people were drilling holes in human skulls, and 9 out of 10 patients walked away alive. The precision required was extraordinary. They understood cranial anatomy. They understood infection control. They understood post-operative care. The purposes varied. Sometimes it was to relieve pressure from a skull fracture, sometimes to treat epilepsy or chronic headaches. But there is a deeper story here. In many societies, the person performing these surgeries was the shaman, the healer, the spiritual intermediary. They were not just doctors in the medical sense, they were the keepers of accumulated knowledge. Hundreds of generations of observation, handed down orally, hundreds of generations of trial and error preserved and transmitted. Shamans often used psychotropic plants to enter trance states. They believed they could diagnose illness from another realm. But they also used practical medicine, herbs, surgery, bone setting, wound care. The spiritual and the practical were inseparable, and the evidence suggests they worked. Here is something that connects it all. Wild chimpanzees in the African savanna select specific bitter leaves. They do not eat them for food. They swallow them whole to purge parasitic worms from their intestines. They taste them, know they are bitter, and eat them anyway. Because they know at some level that their body needs it. Scientists call this zoopharmacognosy, animals medicating themselves. This behavior is old, deep, evolutionary, and it connects our ancient ancestors to other primates, other mammals, other species. Medicine is not something humans invented. It is something that emerges when a living thing realizes, I can feel when something is wrong, and I can find something to make it right. That realization, that singular human and animal insight, led to everything. To Neanderthals using aspirin, to the Iceman carrying antibiotics, to surgeons drilling into skulls and patients surviving, to the Ebers Papyrus, to the Sumerian tablet, to every pharmacology textbook ever written. Alexander Fleming did not discover penicillin, he rediscovered it, A Neanderthal already knew. Dioscorides, the ancient Greek physician, documented 600 medicinal plants in his foundational text, De Materia Medica. That text served as the medical standard for 1600 years. We are still using his plants. We are still using his methods. Because they work. Back to the beginning. Your throat is burning. Your fever is climbing. You reach for the medicine cabinet. A bottle of pills. One moment and the pain starts to fade. But now you know something you did not before. That pill is not new. That bottle did not come from a lab. It came from 50,000 years of survival. From Neanderthals crouched in caves, tasting plants. From the Iceman in the Alps, carrying fungi on leather cords. From surgeons in Ukraine, drilling into skulls with stone tools and watching people live. From Sumerian scribes carving prescriptions into clay. From Egyptian healers blending honey and herbs. From shamans preserving knowledge in the oral traditions that stretch back further than writing itself. We did not invent medicine. We inherited it. We inherited it from people who understood at the deepest level that survival requires sacrifice. That sickness requires looking for answers. That healing is possible if you are willing to search. And in their search, in their desperation, their curiosity, their refusal to accept death as inevitable, they found something that changed us all. The first doctor was not in a lab. They were crouched in a cave. And everything we have built since, every medication, every surgery, every medical breakthrough, traces back to that singular moment when someone realized, my body is telling me something is wrong, and I can find something to make it right. If this changed how you think about medicine, or about what it means to be human, there is more where this came from. And if you want to see every detail of the research, every source, every claim backed up with actual data, that is all in the description. Subscribe if you are ready to see history from a completely different angle. The best stuff always lives in the details we overlook.